Welcome to the Ethos Parent Podcast, a Grace Foundation podcast designed to be a source of information and of comfort, reminding you that you are not alone on your parenting journey and that there is help and support available to you. Today we're going to be talking about relationships and how you can talk to your teenager about their relationships. My name is Grace. I work here at Grace Foundation as part of the central team. And I'm really excited to welcome on the podcast today Claire and Luke. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves. Who's going to go first?
Claire can go first.
Great to be with you. So my name is Claire. I work for Grace Foundation as part of the Building Healthy Relationships team as an RSC support worker. So we provide lessons and intervention groups on healthy relationships, supporting young people and their families.
My name's Luke, and I do a similar kind of job to Claire as well. Relationships and sex education support worker. Just go in talking about anything from conflict resolution to pornography to consent, all that kind of stuff, toxic masculinity and everything like that.
So you guys are regularly working with teenagers, working with young people in school, and relationships, talking about relationships is your bread and butter.
Yeah.
This is what you do. All of the awkward conversations about the birds and the bees.
They're our favourite conversations.
You guys are having them.
We are there to answer the question.
Okay, and so we're talking about relationships. Relationships are so important. Obviously, as a parent, you have your little tiny baby and you are their main relationship, aren't you? They need everything from you. And then as they grow and as they become teenagers, they start to shift a little bit and have other really influential relationships in their life, particularly romantic relationships. So why do you think this is an important topic for us to talk about with our teenagers?
You're absolutely right, Grace. As our young people go through puberty and into their teenage years, friends become a much more key relationship, and there is that moving away in some senses from relationships with family and parents. So it's about keeping that line of communication open, understanding that they're probably going to want to talk to their friends about things more than they talk to you as they get older. But at the same time, it's making sure that they know that you're there for them, that you're going to be there to listen when they do want to talk to you.
I think relationships are probably one of the most important parts of life, because I just don't think that people can really do life alone. And so having friendships or romantic partners and stuff like that, I think it's really important. Like, you want teenagers to have those healthy relationships. And so you want to try and support them in that, because teenagers don't always grow up knowing what is healthy or knowing how to have those kind of relationships.
I think particularly thinking about romantic relationships, there's a lot of fear, I think, for parents around that. And I think fear as well around having the conversation.
Yeah. I think talking about relationships and sex and intimacy is often something that we feel very awkward about doing. And actually feeling awkward, that's okay. It's okay to even say that you feel awkward to talk to them. But it's about making sure that you are there. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to know everything. You can just spend time with them.
Probably parents, I think, as they have children, they don't want them to make the same mistakes that they may have made. So you just get worried and fearful that they might do something that they shouldn't do or do something stupid. I think there's a fear in that. And I think in society, people don't always talk about relationships and sex and stuff like that. So it becomes a bit of a taboo topic that it's not something I want to bring up with my child, because I don't barely talk about it with my friends.
Do you think there's also a bit of sometimes not actually wanting to know?
Just an ostrich, put your head under the sand and think, oh well, if I can't see it, then it's not happening, so everything's fine. But that's not the way that teenagers work. Like, if they're not doing stuff, then their friends are doing stuff, or they know somebody is doing stuff, and they're all talking about it in their friendship groups. What we've experienced working with teenagers, that's just one of the massive topics that teenagers talk about. And as a parent, you want to be in that conversation as well.
You want your voice in there in the mix,
And a voice of reason, a voice of maturity and care as well, because that's not always a voice that they hear from other places.
That's a good point. I think as well we have to notice that the world is quite different now. Actually, for teenagers, there's no such thing as the normal world and the online world.
Absolutely.
It's all merged and it's all one. So we're going to talk today about kind of face-to-face relationships versus specifics of online. Let's start thinking about what parents can do then proactively. How can we start showing them good behaviour, setting examples?
I think something that kind of goes before all of that as well is something that we're really passionate about, is building that self-confidence, that self-worth. Because when we talk about relationships, actually one of the key relationships that any of us have in life is the relationship with ourselves. So the way that we kind of talk to ourselves and about ourselves. And one of the key things to what we do is growing self-worth, actually helping teenagers to know their worth and their value, and that they deserve to be shown respect in all of their relationships. And I think if we can, as parents, instill that in our children as well, and help them to know, that they deserve to be shown respect, they deserve to be treated well, whether that's by their friends or in a romantic relationship, then that is like the sort of, the grounding for hopefully them then looking for those healthy relationships, looking for partners who will treat them well.
I think, like you said earlier, Claire, that it might be a bit embarrassing or a bit shy to talk about these kind of topics, which is totally normal to do that. But I think still, as a parent, taking that responsibility, actually, no, this is something to talk about, and not like forcing a conversation, but being like, oh, how you get on today with your friend, or oh, you haven't seen them in a long while, or how you getting on with that person, or talking about it a bit more normal, a part of life. Yeah. And kind of like watching TV together or whatever, like comment on those kind of relationships. Like, oh, them two get along well, don't they? Oh, it's nice that he's done that for her. Like, is that the kind of thing you'd want your partner to do for you? Or kind of just making comments on healthy examples in TV or social media, and also making comments about negative or unhealthy relationships.
It gives a chance to open up those lines of conversation, doesn't it, in a relaxed way. So we always suggest things like, if you're wanting to talk to them about friendships, about relationships, rather than just kind of doing it head on and literally, sitting them down to talk and then them closing up, it's kind of...
Who is your boyfriend?
Yeah, exactly. So, whilst you're washing up or driving in the car, so that, they're not having to make eye contact, but that, they then know that there's that channel open to be able to talk to you. And it may be that they only come to you after some difficulties, but it's making sure that they know that they can always count on you, and that actually when they do come to you, when they do sort of stop withdrawing and come and actually share something, it's being really present with them, making sure that, you put your phone down, the TV's off, whatever they need, however silly you might think it could be, a fallout or a difficulty with a relationship, that actually they know that you're present with them. And they might have messed up, they might have done something that you're probably angry about, but actually it's making sure that they always know that they're loved and that you're going to be there for them.
I think it's actually interesting as well, like you were talking about self-esteem, self-worth, like trying to have those conversations, and then you were talking about like the TV thing and looking at other stuff. These are little ways that aren't super awkward.
Yeah.
Like them easier topics, aren't they, to kind of discuss as you kind of go through life.
Yeah.
The
less direct approach.
Yeah. So, but they start to open that door. Okay, so now let's talk about the online world, which I find quite scary. I think it's quite scary for a lot of people. None of us really grew up with the internet and with social media in the same way that children are growing up with it now. Greenagers, they've been called, which I think is a nice little term. So let's talk about the relationships in the online world. Who are young people talking to? They're
communicating with friends constantly through their phones, but they're also meeting with other people, maybe through gaming sites, through social media, and that's where some of the dangers are. It's also where healthy relationships are. It's where, they feel connected with others. So it's not all bad. It's places where they find inspiration. It's places where they find, representation and all of that. But at the same time, as parents, it's being, careful about what they are being exposed to. Opening up conversation. Oh, well, what's this game you're playing? Or, who is that person? And actually show an interest in this world that might seem just quite scary to us is their world.
We did a survey actually across all our schools, and one of the questions is, what's the most positive thing about being online? And the most positive thing they said was connecting with their friends.
Yeah. So why is an online relationship maybe more vulnerable? Maybe make the young person more vulnerable than a face-to-face relationship?
So you don't always necessarily know who you're talking to. So some of the communication that can happen online can obviously be someone who isn't who they say they are. A lot of bullying happens through messages, because there's so much more scope now for really serious bullying and grooming and all sorts of things to be happening through social media.
And teenagers are talking to strangers, aren't they?
Yeah, well, 43% of young people would say they talk to somebody that they don't know.
They've never met,
It's kind of like, as an adult, as a parent, you think that's quite scary.
Like, that's a terrifying thing. Like, the only time I would talk to somebody I didn't know is if I was buying something off my Facebook Marketplace. And then I would be like, a bit scared about it.
As adults, we straight away block people if we don't know them.
But the young people just aren't as bothered. They probably don't see the risk and the dangers behind it as much. But I think being online, it's not about making people scared, it's just about making people aware what the dangers and what could happen. The one thing I always say to the teenagers is, like, if you haven't met this person face to face, then it's not a really good idea to talk to somebody that you don't know, because you don't know who they are. Like, they might say they're still a 13-year-old from the school just around the corner, but you never know exactly who they are, and like the kind of things that you say when you're gaming and stuff like that, you might think I'm not giving away any information, but these people will be like, oh well, I picked up what school you go to, picked up how old you are, or you mentioned that park, and now I know where you live. You actually can give away information without even realising
Lots of personal information. The talking to strangers thing, do you think that's gaming where that happens more?
I think so, yeah.
But also
People playing
WhatsApp
the
chats
games,
and things like that, where you can have WhatsApp chats that are, for example, for like year sevens, and so lots of year sevens from across the country will join a certain chat group, and then there's risks. And I've had a friend whose son, who's in year 7, had a problem with this, where suddenly there were explicit images being shared in a WhatsApp chat, and it's making sure you know who is in those chats.
That leads me quite nicely on to my next question, because you mentioned about checking your child's devices. I'm sure that is not really something that teenagers love, but would you say that's an important practice?
It's important.
As parents.
As a parent, I check my son's phone once a week. He's 11. And he knows that I do it. It's setting those boundaries. It's setting those parameters. It's a really tough balance because, as you say, teenagers will not want parents checking their phones. But it is about keeping our children safe, because actually, as a parent, that is what we do. We're there to protect them from harm as far as we can, without being totally invasive of their privacy. It's about actually how can we, in a positive way, just say that, we're just wanting to look out for them.
Part of the vulnerability with online is there's no accountability, is there? And so, like, when we're starting to maybe set expectations that we're going to be checking phones, we're going to be checking messaging and stuff, how would you frame that conversation, and how would you deal with the pushback?
I think going straight in saying I'm going to check your phone is not really the way to go about it, because the way that parents probably think in that situation would be like, hey, I'm scared, I want to make sure that you're okay, but the child would be like, why are you worrying, why are you panicking, like, just chill out, just leave me alone, I'm fine, kind of thing. I want them to know that I love and care for them and want them to be okay, and like, I'm not looking at your phone to make sure to check up on every single thing you're doing. I just want to make sure that you're that everything's safe, that people aren't messaging you, you're not doing anything you shouldn't be doing, that kind of stuff. And I think young people and teenagers can put up walls as soon as they hear any kind of invasion of their privacy. And it might not be the first day that you get to look at all the stuff, but actually you think this is something I want to get to. I think it's probably good to say up from the start. I mean, if you've got teenagers, it's hard to do that because you've already got their own routines. But I think from the get-go, like, actually, this is your phone. You don't pay for that phone. I pay for that phone. And if you want this phone, then I need to make sure that you're using it the right kind of way. And if you don't want me to do that, then I'll have it back. And
it is about balance, isn't it? It's giving them that freedom, because so much going on for teenagers is about them developing into independent beings, and some of that is having their privacy and having these relationships or these engagements that parents aren't involved in. But it's about just, that we're not accusing them. It's not that we're checking on them, but actually there is so many different ways that people can contact our children, young people, and so it's more about protecting them from others than being concerned about their behaviours necessarily.
We're trying to build trust, aren't we? And like, as a two-way thing, we want to be able to trust them with their phones, and hopefully when we're talking to them, that's something we can maybe say in the conversation. So you mentioned to me, Luke, a really good website. Do you want to share that, and we'll link it in the episode as well?
There's a really good website called Internet Matters, and if you go on that and then you just click on a button that says settings, controls, and then you scroll down a bit, and there's, for Apple phones, Android phones, or any games you can think of, or different apps, or different social media, it tells you how to set up parental controls on it. And it's quite easy and straightforward to set up with the pictures it shows you.
Brilliant. We'll definitely link that, and we'll link some other helpful documents as well.
And I think that is so important. I mean, there's so much to navigate with teenagers that, it is about finding places where parents can get help and support. So it is sort of finding out how to do those settings, or, how to have those conversations. Often, as we've said, as relationships change, as young people grow and become more independent into teenage years, as parents, it's knowing that actually we might not be the person that they need to talk to or want to talk to. And it's about knowing where we can direct our young people to, because it may be that they'd rather talk to a different family member, or a friend, or perhaps online, on a look some stuff up on a website.
So if you're worried about your child then, and what kind of things would you be looking out for that would show that maybe a relationship they're in, friendship or romantic relationship, is an unhealthy one?
So in the teenage years, behaviours will naturally change anyway. Obviously, there's all the emotional, hormonal changes going on and all the different things they're navigating around identity and all of that. But it's looking out for behaviours that are, concerning, those red flags where they're more secretive about something, or they're suddenly, meeting up with a different friendship group, or not wanting you to see their phone. So it's trying to work out what is just the sort of normal behaviour for a teenager and what is actually concerning in terms of who they're connecting with, or who might be influencing them.
Maybe the changes in their language, that they seem to have quite strong opinions about something, where it's like, well, where did that come from? Like, who are you listening to where you've picked that up? Because that ain't something we talk about in this house.
Yeah.
Or maybe different things that they wear, maybe wearing more revealing clothes or less clothes, or maybe even wearing more clothes for anything they want to cover up that they're not too proud of.
Body image issues, anything like that, where maybe they're becoming particularly concerned about what they're eating or what they're wearing or how they look.
Working out the why, isn't it? Like, why are they changing? They're going into the bedroom more because that's just where their safe space, where they want to watch their own TV rather than watch TV with you? Are they wearing more clothes because their body's changing, or they're wearing more clothes because they've got a partner that tells them they need to cover up more? And I think it's important that if you worry, then to find out more about it by coming to your teenager with that care and loving attitude, and be like, I'm not here to tell you off.
Yeah, not like barging in. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you're going through, I'm not coming with judgment. I'm coming here with love and care, and I want you to be okay, rather than I'm going to tell you off.
Yeah, and it's just checking in. Is everything okay? Are you okay? And you might just only get a grunt, or they might shout back at you, but it's just making sure that, they know that you're there for them.
Yeah.
And you think calling out these things is important if we see them?
Yeah.
If we think that relationship feels quite controlling.
Yeah.
Whenever something different happens, keep thinking, you're not spending any time with that person anymore. Is what's going on there? Like, maybe they just fell out, maybe they're just got different friends now, or maybe something actually not very nice has happened, and say, I noticed you spending a lot of time with your boyfriend. Just keep being invested in their lives and caring about it, and keep bringing it up.
I think that's a good thing, thinking about investing in their lives as well. And it might seem really simple, but actually getting to know their partner, getting to know who they're spending time with, inviting them for dinner. That's a great opportunity for you to witness it firsthand, and hopefully as well, then you can be like, I saw that behaviour and I didn't think that was great, versus guessing at behaviours.
You can see how they react together.
And you're showing that you are, like you say, invested. So we probably should come to the big taboo, the awkward question of talking about sex with our young people. And we might have parents listening that are worried that their children, their teenagers, are entering into sexual relationships, worried about whether they're ready. How can we talk to them about that?
I think if we've, set up a thing of them knowing they can talk to us before that stage, as they're younger, just creating that atmosphere of actually they can talk to you. But maybe it's having a laugh about it. Like we talked about earlier, it's, bringing up the topic when you've watched something on TV where a relationship's developing. Maybe take them out for a coffee or whatever, so that you can actually just spend time together, do something that you enjoy, go shopping together, whatever it might be, watch a film, and then have a conversation, so that it's not that forced, we need to have the talk, because they absolutely will not want to have the talk. In fact, they'll have probably heard it all already, or know it all from school and from friends. But actually, it's letting them know that as a parent, you are there to support them with that. It's also saying that actually we remember what it was like, and we want them to, have good, healthy relationships. We know that there might be times where they make mistakes, or, they're with a person who's not the right person. And maybe it's about referencing that.
What kind of topics are you going to want to cover? Maybe things around consent.
I think consent is a big one, and it's the kind of thing we teach in schools. And so I think consent is a really big one, that you don't have to just do stuff because they want to do stuff, or you don't have to do stuff because you're legally 16. And actually, whenever people feel ready for it and mature, and actually it's important to put that kind of stuff across. And also about healthy relationships, of make sure it's on kind of your terms, and make sure you're ready for it, and make sure actually what do you really believe as a family, what do you want what the outcome to be. You're just going to do it because that's what everybody does, because often teenagers will say that everybody is doing it, but we know that's just not true.
No.
People will just say they're doing it, but they're not doing it.
Yeah, there can be so much pressure, and it's so much in the media and on social media and friends and stuff. It can feel like the most important thing, but it's about letting a young person know that actually the time is right when it's right for them.
If you get to a certain stage as well, like actually talking about contraception and making sure that they're safe.
And they are getting a lot of content from school, aren't they? Schools
Yeah.
are really preparing them.
But again, it's just letting them know that you're this other person, that, you know, they will come through all this stuff, and it's just letting them know that when they do want to talk, that you're going to be there.
What are some practical things we can do, practical tips you've got for like opening that door of communication?
One thing we've said quite a lot is just keep talking about it. Even if they don't respond, just make it a common conversation that happens in this house. This is just something that we talk about.
And I think sometimes it's asking them, you know, especially when it comes to things like sex and relationships, it's actually, you know, asking them, like, what have you learned any stuff at school or social media about consent? What do you know about this? It's, you know, giving them the power there to be able to sort of say and open up the conversation and kind of direct things a bit, whilst also, you know, giving chance for you to then support and advise.
Yeah, and the whole time, it's not like you're telling them off or like this is a warning talk. Like we're just talking about this freely. Like just because you say something I don't agree with, I'm not going to jump on the first thing you say. Because if you jump on the first thing they say, they're not going to say anything else. It's just being an open space. And I think the biggest one that parents I find we don't really like to hear it is model good behaviour. It's kind of think about what do you do, how are you conducting yourselves in your relationships with your friends, with your partners and all that kind of stuff, and doing what you want your teenager to be doing. Like, if you don't want your teenager to be on their phone for so long, then you don't be on your phone for so long. Or if they you need to treat your partner with respect, like you treat your partner and let them see what respectful relationship looks like, because it's very easy. It's easy to model behaviour that they see rather than just model behaviour they've been told about. Yeah,
I think that's really good point to end on. So thank you so much, Claire and Luke. It's been great to have you on the podcast today. I hope we've been really helpful to parents who are maybe worried about this, concerned about this. The best thing to do is have that open relationship, that close relationship with your child, and keep trying, and it does get better. And remembering that there is help available. So we will be signposting everything that we have talked about today and extra resources and everything for you to look at. And do get in touch with school, because there's likely to be places and information and resources and other parents to talk to. Okay?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.